This is a Clarity HMIS training for the Blue Ridge Continuum of Care on the new HUD 2024 data standards that will be implemented in Clarity HMIS on October 1st, 2023. This video will consist of a summary of the changes that will most affect users and the things they need to know how to do, including the best ways to ask questions to get the correct answers to fill in, and also um, demonstrations of how to fill in the correct information. So to get started, we're going to search for a client and go to that client's profile page. There are several changes to the data fields on the client profile page. The first one involves the client's race and ethnicity. Originally, race and ethnicity were two separate data fields, but now they're being combined into one pick list field. To open up the choices for race and ethnicity, you would click the down arrow on the pick list. And as you can see, there are choices for both race and ethnicity. Please remember to ask clients how they identify and don't answer any of the questions based on staff observation. So you would ask the client what races make up their race or racial identity. And if the client identifies as biracial, for example, let's say that they have a Black or African American parent and a white parent, then you would just check the boxes next to those two racial identities. If the client has a single racial identity, let's say the client identifies as white, then follow up by asking them, what is your ethnicity? If they identify as Hispanic, then please check the Hispanic ethnicity. If a client is not Hispanic, then just leave that ethnicity unchecked. The next HUD data element that is being changed is gender identity. Now, before we look at the new choices in the gender identity pick list, we would like all users to note that gender identity is a person's internal perception of themselves and may not match the sex that they are assigned at birth. Staff should never collect gender information based on observation. Please provide all options in the pick list to every client so that they can self-report what their gender identity is. Simply asking the question like, which of these genders best describes how you identify, is appropriate and focuses on the person's own internal knowledge of their gender. If a client discloses being a culturally specific identity, transgender, non-binary, questioning, or a different identity, staff should, in addition, ask if the client prefers to have the HMIS record reflect this gender identity. For example, the availability of these options is not intended to indicate that transgender individuals are expected to disclose their status. Each response is provided as an option in case an option or more than one option is better suited to a client's identity, needs, or situation. For instance, if a client identifies as a transgender man, but they don't want their transgender identity recorded in HMIS, then the staff person would select man, boy of child, instead of both man, boy of child, and transgender. Please remember that not all clients will be out when it comes to their gender identity. So we should do our best to give them the opportunity to express it, but not out them to staff or other clients if they are not ready for that gender identity to be known to others. With all of that in mind, here are the changes to the gender identity data element in HMIS. Formerly, the choices under this pick list were female and male. They have been updated to be woman, girl if child, or man, boy if child. Once again, if a client identifies as a transgender man or woman, then you would select, in this case, let's use for an example, a transgender man, you would select both man and transgender, but make sure the client reports what they want to be. Um, the other new data, there are a couple new data elements in this pick list that were not available before. Now, if a client identifies with an identity that is exclusive to a particular culture, you can choose culturally specific identity. For example, Two-Spirit refers to a Native North American gender identity where the individual embodies both a male and female spirit. Other cultures that include specific gender identities include, but are not limited to, Hindu, Indonesian, Mexican, and Filipino. The um, There also used to be a pick list item that was labeled Other Identity. This has been renamed as Different Identity. If none of the options embody what the client expresses themselves as, then you can choose different identity. I'm sorry. If you choose different identity, then this will trigger an additional data field to open up. And if different identity, please specify. Then if the client chooses to give more information, you can fill that in the field here. The next data element that is being added to the client profile page is sexual orientation. Previously, this data element was only collected for runaway homeless youth programs, but now it's going to be collected for all clients regardless of program. Please note, just like the gender identity field, this data element involves a sensitive subject for clients. While we would like to gather data on both gender identity and sexual orientation to help us with funding applications and service prioritization, the client still gets to choose whether to disclose this information to us or not. The best practice for asking this question is, we collect data on the sexual orientation of clients for demographic and prioritization purposes. Would you be willing to describe your sexual orientation with one of the following? And then you can list the items from the pick list. If the client does not wish to disclose their sexual orientation, then please choose Client prefers not to answer from the pick list. Here are the options that are available in the sexual orientation pick list. Heterosexual, gay, lesbian, bisexual, questioning, unsure, other, client doesn't know, client prefers not to answer, and data not collected. If the client prefers not to answer, you can choose client prefers not to answer or data not collected. Like in many other pick lists, if you choose other, this will trigger the opening of an additional data element, other sexual orientation. And if the client chooses to provide additional information about their sexual orientation, you may enter it into the blank that is available. The final data element that is experiencing a change on a client's profile page is found under veteran status. If a client is a veteran and you select yes, it will pop up additional veteran information that will require a selection. The main change to the veteran information section is found under branch of military. Within the pick list for branch of military, there's a new choice for Space Force, the newest branch of the American military. If the client has been discharged from Space Force, you may choose this option for their branch of military. The next set of data element changes and updates will be found in client program enrollments. To navigate to a client's program enrollment, go to the Programs tab at the top of the page and open a program enrollment. A pick list has now been added to all program enrollment screens for head of households only for translation assistance. It can be found directly beneath the enrollment or project start date. When interviewing the client for an intake or enrollment into a program, you can ask them if they need translation assistance if English is not their first language. If you select yes, this will open up a preferred language data element. You can click on the pick list and choose from a list of pre-selected most common languages that are potentially spoken in our community outside of English. If the client does not speak one of the pre-selected languages, then you can come down and select different preferred language, and it will pop up a new data element. If different preferred language, please specify. And here the staff person would fill in the client's preferred language. For the convenience of all Blue Ridge Continuum of Care staff and to serve as an assistance tool for clients who do not speak English as a native language, we've created these I Speak cards that list a variety of different languages so that the client is able to point and let you know which language they speak. These are available to all staff and can be placed at intake stations or at staff's desks whenever they do intake with the client. Once they select the language that they speak, you can then go back to the program enrollment and choose their preferred language. Don't forget to save and close whenever you have updated all the information for a client. The last new data element that we're going to cover is found on the exit screen in a program enrollment. So you'll look at the tabs in the program enrollment screen and find the exit button and bring up the program exit assessment. On the client's exit assessment screen, when you're ending a program enrollment for a client, after ending the project exit date, you will also need to enter an exit destination. Within this exit destination pick list, several individual item names have been cleaned up to simplify them and simplify the choices available. The one that staff need to pay closest attention to is rental by client with ongoing housing subsidy. Examples of ongoing housing subsidies include a housing choice voucher, a Section 8 project-based housing unit, a HUD-VASH voucher, or tenant-based rental assistance. If a client is moving into a unit with any of these housing subsidies, you would choose this exit destination choice, and then a new pick list field will open entitled Rental Subsidy Type. And then within this pick list, you can choose the specific subsidy type that the client is receiving. If they're moving into a HUD-VASH voucher situation, are receiving rapid rehousing assistance, have a housing choice voucher, are moving into a public housing unit, etc. Choose the item that best describes your client's housing destination and the subsidy that they are receiving. When you're done, don't forget to click Save and Close. These are all the different types of data element changes that will affect users when the new HUD 2024 data standards are implemented in Clarity HMIS on October 1st, 2023. If you have any questions about any of these data elements or how to best enter information into the system, please contact your HMIS system administrators. Thank you.